agreements, everyone kind of did them differently, and that's why Kelly's kind of trying to get them all figured out and straightened out, because they had all different paragraphs of different. It's been very messy.
I think we're ready to get started, Josh.
Yeah. Okay. Are folks in the room ready to get started?
Yes.
All right. I'll call the meeting to order. Morning, y'all. I think we've got our agenda set for today with the August minutes, September minutes, the FY27 project sheets. That's a new addition.
No.
Financial policies,
no.
procedures update, and public engagement and communications. Sorry, no, project sheets was not a new addition, the FY26 amendments, that's right. Are there any adjustments to the agenda?
Are we all looking at the same agenda as the packet that was sent by Darlene last week?
Yes,
Yes.
and I'm sharing it as well. For everyone.
Okay.
You're welcome.
All right. Hearing no adjustments to the agenda, do we have any public comments?
Josh, should we establish that we have quorum properly since some people are online and some people are in person?
Sure. I think we can jump to a roll call. Let's start with in person.
Sarah Williamson, Orange County.
Darlene Weaver, Administrator for Orange County.
Matthew Clark, interim chief of staff at Go Triangle, and just wanted to send regards from our president and CEO, Brian Smith.
Thanks, Kelly, Good Triangle.
Kelly Smith, Go Triangle.
Paul Kingman, Tax District Administration, Echo Triangle.
Jamel Wiley, Orange County.
Linda Leon, Triangle West.
Doug Plachinsky, I'm the alternate for Triangle West.
All right, we'll move to online for folks just online.
Jay
We
Hickes,
have
Go
to-
Triangle. I think I'm technically the voting member, along with Megan.
Nick,
Nick Pittman, Chapel Transit.
Tina,
Tina Moon with the town of Carrboro.
Becca,
Beck Eversole Robinson, alternate for the town of Carrboro.
Landon, did I hear you in the room?
No, I'm online. Landon Coley, UNC Chapel Hill.
Paul,
Oh, I'm in the meeting
Okay.
room as well.
just confirm, I think I heard Jason in the room as well.
Matthew Clark.
Clark.
Yeah, Jason's online, Jamal's in the room.
Okay. And then Josh Schmale with the town Chapel Hill. All right. I think unless there are any adjustments to the agenda or public comment, we can move to August minutes. Have folks had a chance to review the August minutes?
Yeah,
There are any adjustments?
yeah. This is Meg.
Mhm.
So I read through the minutes and there's been some changes, but there's still several items that I'd like to point out. So first of all, there's still not the name of the preparer on them. This is standard practice for the preparer, whoever prepared the minutes, get their name on them. So I'd request that that be done. There's also this is minor, but it's something we're trying hard to do at Good Triangle. There's an item that's listed as Good Triangle, and it's actually a report out from TDA. So, either do TDA report out or TDA/Good Triangle, something like that. To do.
Go Triangle.
It's same as staff working group
Yeah.
administrator. It's not Orange
Yeah.
County, it's staff working group.
Or SPO, like we don't call you
It has a staff working group
It's
administrator.
just who your house by. Like TDA has a very specific role in this body and through the ILA.
I've heard very clearly that the TDA is Go Triangle. That was explained to me at the Durham staff working group.
We're under Go Triangle, yeah. We
TDA
get
are
just like Darlene gets her paycheck from Orange County.
Yeah.
But she's staff working group administration.
Yeah,
I might be a check.
You can clarify that in Slack and have it both. but
I've
just
asked
like-
for it a couple of times now in these minutes, so I'm just requesting it again because it just keeps it straight, like, you know, we don't call the MPO Central Pines because that's where they're housed, like, it's just trying to clarify.
I also made the updates that you emailed me.
I saw a lot of those, so these were two,
But Meg, just on that, there's independent governments where there's not independent governments. Go try.
so for the TDA, they're called out as a stand, like as a separate function.
Right, it could be TDA Echo Triangle, but.
That's fine,
it is
that's
Go
what I
Triangle.
suggested. I suggested either just TDA or TDA/Go Triangle, just so there's clarity that the
Yeah.
report came from the tax district. And that's fine. And then, is it in the August one? Oh, yeah, and then in the
Yeah.
August one, I'll point this out,
Yeah.
because so I had discussed or submitted comments about kind of standard procedure, whereas minutes are really meant to reflect the action that was taken at a meeting. And that there shouldn't there definitely cannot be bias, but there really shouldn't even be dialogue and that sort of thing. But in a section of the August minutes, there's still this, it's under the TDA section, which is why it caught my attention. If I focused in on that. There's a conversation in there that's being described. And I think it's the only place where very specific comments are being described in such a way. And so it's awkward. It appears that it's in there for documenting it for reasons other than actions that were taken, because it's not an action. It's just a description of a conversation. And so here, I think my preference is to remove that sort of language from minutes. It's really a best practice to not have that sort of conversation in minutes. Minutes are meant to capture action. But the alternative would be to bring back in all of the other conversation that was like this throughout the document, throughout the meeting. And that meeting was peppered with conversations. And so this is the only place where it's on line 100, line 99. It's still the only place where it's still captured in such a way. And that just is concerning to me. So I'd like the minutes to be rewritten to remove those comments or to go back and add all of the comments that were what could be classified as, I don't know, interjections or dialogue or something along those lines. And then,
Provide a red line version of what you would like to see.
Okay.
So we can,
so I've asked for this already once, so this is the second time. I think TDA did provide a red line version, actually. So I guess just go to TDA's and that might help the situation. So they did provide it and it wasn't addressed. So,
TDA is not on the spot.
Sorry,
right,
Sorry.
but they're still mentioned. So I'm asking you,
No, it's-
I'm asking
I'm
you to
sorry.
apply TDA's red line version. So I'll
I'm
just,
sorry.
Send the name up.
it's
If we
it's
could-
it's already been. in. Go ahead,
Excuse
Josh,
me,
I'm
y'all.
sorry. Sure.
If we could have one member comment at a time, I think Meg,
Sure.
I've got your comments down. I see Paul's hand up and then I see
Wait,
Sarah's hand up.
I'm still going.
Okay.
I still have one more comment. I think it's in this one. Yes, it's in this one, down at line 110, 112 or so. I do remember, and if whoever prepared the minutes can just confirm that, in line 110 there, that I'm sorry, Josh, that Josh was actually nominated. And then later, his willingness to serve was confirmed, just like it's noted on line 116 for Ashley. I'm remembering that Josh was nominated by Caroline. His willingness to serve was confirmed and then the vote was taken. And it's the sequence here is out of whack with that. So I just asked for confirmation of that. I'll rewrite as needed. That's it, Josh. Thanks.
Thank you. I see Paul's hand up, then Sarah.
Yeah, and Josh, so my comments, and just, I know TDA doesn't have a vote on this committee, but our names are mentioned in the Section 2, adjustments to agenda, so that's line 26 through 28. There were, listening to the reporting, there were no adjustments to the agenda, so I'm not sure.
It was, that
There
what,
was- Listening to the reporting, there were
I
not.
listened to the
Then went
recording.
To public comment after
Okay, you,
the first 15 seconds of the, and I guess on line, 100,
mhm.
Steve and I are just wondering what the interjected multiple times kind of defines, if you could define that, because I
Sure.
don't believe that that's something like
Procedure.
Sarah's doing right now, interjecting with me, or like, I don't know, like, I'm still talking, Sarah. Do you have your hand up?
I do. I've
Okay,
had it up for quite some
I have, Josh gave, the chair gave. Me. So I just had those two comments, that we'd like the adjustments to the agenda removed and the whole line interjected removed.
Okay. Sarah, then I see Doug.
I have questions about where we are on the agenda, because I think we need to move through the agenda in the order of the items listed. And then I'd also like to get an answer from the chair as to when we handle public comments, and to clarify if the public and non-voting members are having dialogue during the discussion time that is for voting members, and how that should be appropriately handled.
Yeah, I think we do have voting members and non-voting members, so members should have the opportunity to comment. We are on the August minutes. My understanding was Paul's comments were on the August minutes. Were they on the August or September minutes, Paul?
Well, I'd like to make a motion, then if we're on the August minutes, a motion to approve the August minutes.
Okay, members can call a motion at any time, so I have a motion to approve the August minutes as written. Do we have a second?
Second. Josh, can you hear me?
Yes. Was that Jamal?
Yes.
Okay, second from Jamal. I have a motion from Sarah, second from Jamal. We'll go to a roll call vote. Let me pull up my roster. All right. I have Nick,
I'm voting no because I'm hearing there's a lot of things that need to be corrected before this gets approved.
okay. Let me just confirm there's not a Hillsborough representative there. Did I hear Stephanie or Matt there?
No,
Okay. Tina,
I'm sorry, I'm still reading. Can you come back to me?
okay. I think if you would like to approve the minutes as written, yes. If you want some further conversation, no. I would ask for a vote or an abstention.
One
Can we-
second.
Sorry, I didn't hear that, Tina.
I'll have to abstain because I haven't finished reading.
Okay. Jay,
No.
Meg,
Did you call me? Oh,
Yes, Meg.
Meg? No, I thought he called Jay.
he did, and then
Okay.
he called you.
Oh,
just
Meg,
now.
no.
let's see. Sarah,
Yes.
Jamal,
Yes.
Madeline. Sorry, I didn't
Did you
hear
hear
that.
Josh?
No.
She said yes.
Okay. And I will vote no, so we can have further conversation. I have that down as a 4-3.
Josh.
Mhm.
Can we clarify that the concerns brought up during public comment and prior were about the September meeting minutes?
They were all good.
These were August.
Yes, those are
So-
August.
I was
I've heard
unsure.
Meg's
I was
comments
wondering,
on the
but
August
I-
minutes. I did have a question for Paul if his comments were on the August minutes.
Yes, they were, Josh.
Okay. so we are still on August minutes. I think I've heard desire for further comment. I don't know if Paul was finished with his comments.
Yes, I am. I mean,
Okay. I've
Or
heard
am I-
some,
Mr. Chair, point of order.
yes. Hmm.
I believe a motion was made on this item on the agenda. That motion has failed. I believe unless anyone makes a motion to reconsider, this item is disposed of.
That's fair.
From this agenda.
I did hear several comments on making a motion with modifications. I did want to give that a chance.
Okay, but I think someone who voted no would need to make a motion to reconsider for us to continue this item on the agenda.
Okay. That's the case, then I will ask for a motion to reconsider. Hearing none, we'll move to the September minutes.
You want to comment, Jack?
Yes, I think if there's any comments before someone makes a motion, I do see Doug's hand up.
My hand's up too.
Okay, Doug, then Meg.
I'll take mine down. That was to get that clarification. Thank you.
Okay,
I have a few minor requests. Jay's name is misspelled in a few places. It's a typo, Heikes. Line 243, again, the TDA, go triangle. Note there. And anywhere that it's meant to be TDA, if it could just be clarified, it's TDA / go triangle, however you want to capture that, but just to clarify. And then again, we need the name of the preparer added to the notes. Those are my September comments. Thanks.
all right. Do we have any other comments on the September minutes? Hearing none, I'll ask for a motion.
I'll make a motion to approve with those changes made. If we can confirm that those changes will be made, otherwise a motion to wait till next month when we can see that the changes have been made.
Okay, I heard some kind of conflicting language there.
Sorry, Josh, I realized it as soon as I
Yes.
said it. Then my
I
motion
think-
is to postpone the approval of the September meeting minutes until next month when we can see the changes that I've requested be made.
All right, I hear a motion. Do I have a second?
I'll second Meg's motion.
Okay, we can go to a roll call vote. Nick Pittman,
Yes.
Tina,
Yes.
Jay,
Yes.
Meg,
Yes,
Sarah.
No, because we're not following the procedure, which is that changes should be submitted in writing in advance. I'd like to follow the procedure.
All right, Jamal,
No.
Madeline,
No.
and I am also a no. I think I can, I would be happy to make a motion to approve the minutes with these changes, with the faith that the staff working group administrator will make those changes. But I also hear the desire for procedure, so I think it may make sense to submit those changes, revisit the September minutes, see if those changes have been added, and then make a motion on those minutes. I will say, given the conversation around the August and September minutes, I do hear some desire for changes. I believe we should have those submitted in writing. I think the August ones have been submitted, but I did hear some new ones that weren't in writing. So I think we can commit to provide those feedback to the staff working group administrator ahead of time. Meg?
So now I'm confused. So I think I consider my comments for September minutes now officially submitted since I shared them. And the August ones were officially submitted once before. So
Is the procedure to submit them in writing prior to?
Yes.
Okay, so I think
Yeah.
the issue that's being made is while they've been made verbally,
right,
that before we approve it and that before we move to approve it, that we should be submitting, like, we're just following the procedure. Submitted in writing,
Right.
changes are made.
Right.
Then we have the meeting, the motions are made. If there's any additional changes that come up at the meeting, then the minutes should not be approved. Those should also be submitted in writing. And then we should come back to it.
so I appreciate that. So all of my August requests had been submitted in writing prior. And in the September minutes, 2 of the 3, except for the misspelling of a name, the other 2 had been submitted in writing for the prior minutes and never addressed in those or the subsequent minutes. So they had been submitted in writing. And for the typo in a name change, I would never suggest we hold a minute. So that's why I'm saying they have been submitted. So.
Yeah.
Just want to clarify, but I agree with you, Jamal. I think that's appropriate, but they had been.
Yeah, if that's the case, I think we may, for the August minutes, I do see your submittal in writing to both the chair and the staff working group administrator. I think we can talk about how best to resolve the changes that were not added to the minutes. I think I do want to give members a chance to make motions to have the changes they submit, and that is going to be something that I don't know if we can solve at this meeting, but something that I think we should consider. So, all right. Any last reconsiderations on the September minutes? Hearing none, I think we can move to FY27 project sheets.
Okay, so, our FY 27 project sheets are due on the 21st. I mean, not 21st, but December the 1st. I can show you on the Go Triangle website where you can find it. And I will also send it out today after this meeting.
Thanks, Darlene. I think-
Share my screen. All right, so on the screen, if you go to Orange County Annual Work Program, it's actually under here for Go Triangle page, FY 27 Annual Work Program, and you go under here on the FY 25 base budgets, and it tells you your base for each of the sections. And then when you go back, you go under here and you can see where you can put your request. And here's the template right here too for the new annual work program on what you're to fill out. Also, everyone has the manual that I presented at the last meeting to help you. If you have questions, please let me know. But I would definitely send out an email after this with all of the information for you, with the links. So everyone will have access to it. Are
Thanks,
there any
Darlene.
questions?
I have a question.
Yes, Meg.
Thank you, Darlene. Helpful generally, but I guess it's a schedule. It's about the schedule related to all of this process. So if we have a schedule change, how do we adjust schedule changes in general, I guess is my question.
Can you be more specific on
On,
what you want to talk
well, so
about?
we have a schedule identified, I think, for this December.
And this, okay, I'll bring up the schedule. Keep going, please.
Yeah, so I guess my specific question is about schedules on amendments,
Mm-hmm.
but this schedule made me think of it. So,
Okay.
but they all are intertwined. So if I can continue, even though it's related to the amendment, schedule, this 27 development process is actually impacted because it appears that our amendments now are not going to be approved by our boards on the schedule that had been approved prior, which would impact potentially what needs to be done in 27 work plan, because it could be that our boards don't even approve FY 26 Q2 amendments until after those project sheets are due, now that we've changed that schedule. Because the old schedule would have had us approving the FY 26 Q2 amendments at this meeting, or recommending approval at this meeting, so that our boards could act on them in their November meetings, but someone changed that schedule. We didn't discuss that, and now it's not being addressed on this agenda, and I'm afraid that that then impacts the 27 work plan development.
It is being addressed in this under public comments.
So is there concern that the 27 schedule will now be impacted because of the 26 amendment schedule being delayed? I guess is my question as it relates to
No.
this.
What you're talking about, for the amendments, it will work out and it won't be a problem and it won't be impacted.
Have you communicated with our board about that? Because our board had it for approval like in November, like our board has to approve all this, and now the schedule has changed. And
So
it also impacts what
December, if you look on the December schedule, it says the draft is due on December the 1st. So if I go back to the schedule and I show you, it says the draft is due on December 1st. So since the draft for the FY 26 annual program project sheet, the draft only is due on the 1st, that is going to give you enough time to still be able to make sure you get everything in, Meg.
Right, but by that point in time, according to our original plan and program development schedule, we would have known which FY 26 Q2 amendments were approved. So we won't have that done before the FY 27 project sheets are due. So now it's put the larger overall schedule out of whack. So
On FY 26 or FY 27?
27,
So-
the new one.
we're talking about, so the FY 26 Q2 amendments, the schedule has just been changed.
So Meg, you're saying that there's a domino effect from
Yes,
one being
Thank
delayed.
you. Yes, so the schedule is carefully laid out so that by the time we get to our 26, we have a sense of what's happening in by the time we get to our 27, we know what's happening in 26, but with the change in the 26 amendment schedule, we no longer know that. And I just want to have a conversation around whether or not we think that impacts the 27 work program schedule or any other cascading impacts on how we develop that.
And go ahead.
So if we're developing, and I could be completely off, somebody correct me if I'm wrong. If we're developing FY 27 draft projects, right? Those are being developed for FY 27 projects, correct? Okay. Any FY 26 amendments are for FY 26 already existing projects, correct?
Right.
Okay. So I'm lost on how
Now,
the amendment for FY 26 projects affect FY 27 draft
right.
projects.
So this is exactly the conversation. I want to make sure that no one sees, so for example, it could impact it if a 26 amendment was not approved, that somebody expected money to be applied for 26, that would need to be added to 27 worksheets if that 26 amendment wasn't approved. So that's an example of how it could happen. With operating projects, it could change the timing of implementation, which could change the overall, budget for any given year. There could be staffing implications. I mean, there's a lot of things that could happen, but since we've changed a schedule without a conversation, I just think we need to have the larger conversation about have we now impacted the rest of the schedule or the potential for problems on projects that were requesting amendments in 20
Can I just
Yeah.
ask one small thing, Meg? Can we leave the part
for later. Yeah.
about
Yeah.
what happened with the current schedule for later
Yeah, yeah, yeah.
and just focus on
Yeah.
this part right now?
Right. Yeah. So is the 27 schedule in peril, and how will we discuss and approve schedule changes on
Darlene,
27?
my
schedule?
question that might help answer what Meg's asking. You're saying December 1st is the draft. When is the final due?
December the 17th is posted right here.
So that's more than 2 weeks later.
Right,
So-
and what if somebody changes that schedule and we don't know about it? Like, what's the process for changing schedules? I just want to have this conversation so we all know.
So is the 17th a
changing
problem though?
No.
Okay,
The problem is that if a schedule changes without this body approving that schedule change, we don't know what the implications are for the larger
and
the
I
larger
think
process.
that conversation belongs later in the agenda, Chair.
So will we discuss in this body any schedule changes to the FY 27 program development? I guess that's a pertinent question for this.
Yes,
topic.
so Meg, what you're referring to is under public engagement and communications. You're talking about the public comment set part. That's the
No,
delay
no, I'm
part.
talking about the schedule for the development of the FY 27 work plan. So I want to ensure that any change in the schedule is discussed and approved by the staff work group, so that we're all aware of those changes and we can all work accordingly. But it's difficult. Our board needs to approve.
I think that we've heard that, Meg. And
So I'm asking for confirmation, I guess. Is that the accepted process? Is that
Chair,
this
can
group?
you help us move this forward?
Yeah, I do think it would be I don't believe this board has voted on the FY27 schedule. I do think it would be open for this board to talk about the schedule as long as we are meeting our end goals as outlined by the ILA. I do think we could make adjustments to the schedule to accommodate the concerns that Meg is laying out.
I think we approved the schedule, but I could be wrong on that. I thought,
For
we-
the-
May,
yeah, I thought we
I'm
approved the.
checking through our past agendas. I don't know if I see an approval of the FY27. If I'm wrong, please let me know, but
you talking about the FY 27 schedule?
Yeah. For
Yes.
work
Yes, we
development.
did it in May.
in May. Okay.
Yes.
Okay, cool. So we do have our schedule set. We do have it approved. I think we can, because the board approved the schedule, we can have conversations about changes to the schedule. I think there are things we can talk about the FY26 later on. But if this schedule does shift, I do think this board will be informed and will obviously aim to keep this on schedule. Given the administrative tasks involved, I think we need to be comfortable that they're completed. But if we're comfortable they're completed, that'll obviously be the goal to have them on time. And if
And
there's
this
any,
body would approve schedule changes. Is that your point?
yeah, I think any deliberate schedule changes would be approved by this body. I think because there are administrative tasks here and having things finalized and paperwork finalized and public comment periods, I do think we need to be confident the work is completed before we can move forward, but we should always let folks know if the work can't be completed on schedule and talk about schedule changes. Do you have Meg, are you finished?
Yeah, that was all. I just wanted to talk about the schedule changes, Josh. Thanks.
Okay. Do you have any other comments on the FY27 project sheets? I think this is just an informational for the board. All right, hearing none, we can move into financial policies and procedure update. I believe this was brought forward by Sarah, so.
Yes, I've had a few things come up as I've started working with this group and looking at just the operating guidelines and some questions about really the financial policies and procedures and how about they set up accountability and just acceptable use and things of that nature. And wanted to see if there would be interest in this group, if we could possibly set up a subcommittee to review these and see if they're where we feel like they need to be. It seems that there's some folks in our organization, at least, that feel that the financial policies and procedures might not be exactly where they need to be to meet the standards of the local governing board. And so I was seeking input from this group and wanted to form a subcommittee to review that.
Sarah, could you say a little bit more about what you mean by that? I'm not trying to argue. I'm really just kind of curious when you say the league. Can you just say a little bit more?
There's some things in the financial policies and procedures that aren't 100% transparent and are unclear. They're very vague in some areas, and some additional clarity of what's expected in those areas would be helpful as far as what the procedures are to be. There's things that allude to using standard practices, but not what those practices are. There's not real specifics around bond tests and debt service funds and things of that nature that in talking to our finance teams and others, it would really be advisable to have. So it might be that finance reps from some of the organizations could work on this together with one or two members of the staff working group sitting in and helping contribute there.
Thank you.
And TDA. This is a TDA task, right?
I think that's something for us to decide as we put together a subcommittee is what that might look like.
So if I remember correctly, these were written by those groups and approved by our governing bodies 2 years ago. I think spring of 23. So, yeah, I guess I always think it's good to reevaluate and study and whatnot. I just don't know if this is the highest priority, recognizing we have some other things we need to address, but yes, some more clarity on exactly which, is there a certain element or task in there? I think I heard that cost per hour calculation was one of them. And it sounded like maybe just some workshopping among the staff who actually calculate cost per hour might be helpful in that particular situation, because I know we already have a cost per hour policy, for example. So yeah, I don't think it's a bad idea. I just think more clearly defining the first tasks and needs, I guess, to understand exactly who should be involved, because what that is could vary on who should be involved, could determine who should be involved, and that could vary.
I didn't bring up cost per hour.
Oh, I don't know. I have to go back and look at, I thought that was,
It is in the policies, but that's not something that I brought up in my conversation. You just brought that up. Is that something you'd like to add to the conversation?
no, I thought in the emails there were cost per hour questions.
Not in
I
what
have
I
to go
brought
back and look.
forward.
I think what Sarah's talking about is taking and you can correct me if I'm wrong, is taking the existing policy, the financial policy and procedure, and reviewing it to make sure that, because as she said, there's some areas in there that could be determined as being very broad. And maybe on those areas, what we're looking at is instead of things being so worded so broadly, we want to make it more specific. That way, when someone is reading it, they're not interpreting it themselves. It's very specific as to what they should be looking at, what they should be looking for when they're making those financial policy decisions.
Because what we've run into is there's been staff changes, is that the way that people interpret those at different organizations is very different. And so if we can clean that up, I think it would be better for all of us to do that in a small group instead of as things are happening.
Well, so can you, I guess, make a formal proposal about in which order, and then we can identify the staff most appropriate? Because it sounds like some of this could even be in an addendum, like a process document to address the policy. So I'll use cost per hour because I thought this was part of the conversation. So if it's cost per hour calculation, if I'm remembering that policy, it gives like 3 large cost categories. And I agree that probably 5 different people would end up with 5 different calculations based on the broad description of all of that. And that it probably would work to have, examples or consensus around how that's done. But I don't know that the best thing to do is to change the policy. It may be that the procedures or the process documents need to be created that support those as well.
This is
So
about the financial policies and procedures document that we have that's attached to our agreement.
Yeah.
That says how we're gonna do those things. That's what I'd like to get a group of staff that is some of the members from our group and some financial representatives to look at together and decide what needs to be prioritized, because I think different people from different organizations would have different input. That's what I was trying to gather before this meeting to be able to prioritize some of those things, but that got shut down via email conversation. So I don't have that to give today, but I would like to ask that we set up a time to do that and set up a subcommittee to do so. And I'm glad to have some financial representatives and some representatives from this group to do that.
Doug, I see your hand up.
Thank you. The ILA suggests that the ILA party members should consider a planning administrative rep as well as a financial representative. So I think the ILA members should probably have their financial representatives prepared to participate, whoever their appointed people are. Thank you.
yeah, I would agree that even without the ILA, that the finance people should be involved. But for Go Triangle's sake, that's separate from TDA, but I do think that TDA needs to be there as well, so just to clarify. I think I'd have to check with our finance people, but I'm assuming that our finance staff would need to be there as well. Because for
But you
example,
don't have a finance staff person appointed to this board.
no, but we would look for them for subject matter expertise, for example, on cost per hour, like that's not anybody who I think has ever attended one of these meetings, that their calculation, that sort of thing. Our CFO. Her decision on who should represent Go Triangle. I don't think it's me.
So Josh, for as far as action for this, can the action be to form a subcommittee with the members, exact members to be determined?
Yeah, I do want to express what I've heard in this group. I've heard that this subcommittee should include financial representatives from, I think this is where I would like some clarification from the group, for all members or transit providing members or just members who are willing to participate.
I think the last one might be the smart one. Whoever wants to participate.
Guys, if I could jump in. I just would like to point out that if it's a subcommittee that ends up being larger than this committee, then there's really no point of having a subcommittee. I think it's the responsibility of each rep that ends up on the subcommittee to coordinate the input from their finance team outside of those meetings and not have so large meetings that we're back to some of the discussions we had earlier, that it can really focus on the purpose of the subcommittee's tasks.
Sarah, then Meg.
I would like to focus on having these ILA members participate because they are the ones that signed on to the financial policies and procedures. Maybe if we could look to have 5 organizations was what I was considering, so that we do keep it smaller than the whole body. But I'm open to suggestions about that. That was just a number that I was thinking would be a good representation without being the whole.
Meg, then Tina.
Yes, so to clarify, the ILA members are the MPO, the county, Go Triangle. Let's go Triangle. Chapel Hill Transit has such a large role in implementation of projects for Chapel Hill, implementation of projects in this. And the financial, I just feel like would be missing an obvious significant player. And as I said before, I think TDA needs to be separate. So that's there. Those are the 5 you're thinking of. I think that seems logical, but
I was focusing on the ILA members in a total of 5, but open to suggestions about who those are.
oh, total of 5 people, not 5 organizations.
5 organizations,
So
which would be 5 people.
oh, so all right.
5 people who represent
Yeah.
the
5
5 organizations.
Yeah, so I think the 5 organizations I just listed are a must. But I think for so TDA would be, they'd represent themselves. They are finance people, so that's fine. And then the other 4 organizations I mentioned, as far as Go Triangle is concerned, I would feel strongly that a finance person be at the meetings and involved. I think it's very difficult for a non-finance expert sometimes to hear and understand, if they use a term, is that a very common finance term that is generally accepted by anybody who works in finance? A planner may not know that, or somebody else may not know that. However, I also feel it's very important to have somebody who's been involved at all of these meetings and in all the conversations and really lives and breathes this program to also be present, which would be probably, one of us representing each one of those agencies. So I would say those 5 agencies, but that would lead to maybe 9 people.
So just a thought, would not be better way, that way it doesn't turn into a massive group of people, right? Would it not be maybe a better practice you have the 5 subcommittee members? It is incumbent upon them to get the financial information, to have those financial discussions with the financial individuals within their organizations, and then bring all of that information to the subcommittee and have a conversation of how it's all melded together into one policy.
I just think when you have a subject matter expert in things like finance and law, it's really good to have finance and law in the room each time. There's too many potential errors or that old telephone game where somebody says one thing, somebody else hears something else. And as it gets further down the line, it starts getting distorted. I'm just always concerned that that's a result when you don't have subject matter experts there. So
Perhaps, Josh, if we could find the 5 organizations, then we could let them define how they want to do that work.
Yeah, I'll say I'm hearing some different interest of having a subcommittee that it directly includes financial folks and one that doesn't. I think I personally am happy to go either direction. I do share some of the concern about passing financial information on to the financial folks and things being lost in translation. I do want to call on folks. I saw Tina, you had your hand up temporarily. Did you want to speak? And then we have Jay and Doug.
I think I was just maybe going to offer just as a suggestion, kind of a variation of what Meg had said. It might be useful to start with the existing members of this body who could talk through what the purpose of the meeting was. Sarah, you provided a great explanation, and I think that's helpful. But for finance folks who aren't regularly involved with this group, there might be such a catch up that it might be useful to have the subcommittee members who are pertinent start and then go back, as the other person said, to their finance folks, and then bring both of those groups of folks together for the follow-up. Just make sure that you're really using your time well for progress. That was just my thought.
That's similar to what I'm thinking as we're going through this conversation, Tina. Great to hear that somebody else is having those thoughts as well.
Jay, then Doug.
Yeah, I just wanted to express support for a process where the subject matter experts are directly involved. I'm not sure that I understood Sarah and Tina's conversation, but I could see where, a smaller group meeting first to set out procedures and then a larger group that includes subject matter experts seems reasonable to me, if that's what was said, but I acknowledge I may not have understood that correctly. And I do just want to point to some corollaries. One is the governance study and ILA adoption itself included, I think, all members of what's now the staff work group. Those that were not ILA parties were in a listening capacity, but the meetings were open and folks were able to attend and understand what was happening. And, when we discussed financial policies, there were relevant staff from each entity's finance department invited. Same thing when it came to, work, legal work. The lawyers were invited at those times where it was appropriate. So I think that's a corollary here. A second corollary that's different is the Durham staff, or the Durham Transit Plan has a standing group of a standing finance subcommittee that is defined and sets financial policy. So that's another example we could look to. Thanks.
Thanks. Doug?
I'm fine with entities having subject matter experts available to them to use as resources. However, any recommendation from such a subcommittee must come from only voting members of this body.
That makes sense. Tina?
Yeah, at the risk of prolonging this, totally agree with you, Doug, but I might, to Jay's point, reiterate that if there are recommendations that come forth from the subcommittee that make changes to the overarching agreements that all of the parties have to sign, those would have to go before our finance folks as well as our appropriate attorneys, or, for legal guidance. And so we wouldn't want to go too far down the path other than having recommendations before we check in with these other parties, so we don't find ourselves with something that may be problematic for the entire group of participants.
That's why I was hoping to have two of the non-ILA voting members participate, so there could be some representation and some other interest in those conversations, hopefully to catch more of those types of things early.
Yeah, Tina, I'm not sure our structure requires that everyone have an opportunity to, or expectation to run everything by their appropriate representation unless we specify it, because a simple majority of the body does carry the vote. So something could be approved whether a party in the minority is prepared for it or not.
Perhaps that's the letter of the law, but it certainly would be problematic to set up agreements where you would have the towns uncomfortable to continue to participate in the transit plan programs. So again, not a point of contention, just something to be thoughtful of as we move forward.
No, I think the towns should have an opportunity to weigh in. And I think that's what I'm hearing proposed, so there be one subcommittee voting rep from each ILA member, and then two of the four other municipalities that are represented.
Yeah.
I-
Are there any volunteers who would want to participate from each of those ILA organizations and the towns? Or would we like to discuss that amongst ourselves and come up with those names in email? Are we prepared to identify those individuals today?
I'm not prepared. I think we need to approve a structure. I think we need to have a proposed structure in writing to approve or not approve.
So the purpose of it being on the agenda to just have it so that we can start the process of formulating the subcommittee.
Yeah,
So I
that
think
was
that where we're at with this is
the goal for today.
making a motion that we actually want to form the subcommittee to start all of this process. But
Yeah.
The motion.
I'll also note that according to our SWG bylaws, subcommittees are appointed by the chair. So I'm taking this feedback in. I don't think we have a process to formally appoint a subcommittee from the a board vote. But I do hear the different interest, and I think there's my personal preference would be to email around, see who wants to participate, and proceed with that group while staying under a quorum. Under a quorum would be 6, so up to 6 members. Jay?
Yeah, sorry, I just lost my agenda. Is this on the agenda as an informational item?
It's under an action item, so the action was to form the subcommittee, and then for the whatever the next appropriate steps are for appointing members.
It's information.
Oh, it is information?
Yeah.
Okay,
It's under the regular agenda area, but it does just say action is information.
that's why it's confusing. Thank you, Meg.
Yeah.
But I think we understand that the committee, the working group would like to see a proposed structure that the chair can see consensus behind before we, and have comfort making those appointments in the subcommittee. So do we prepare that structure for the next staff working group meeting? And then the chair, and it is, if the chair is appointing the members of the subcommittee, ultimately it is at the chair's discretion. You may have in mind who you would like to serve on that should the consensus around the structure be reached.
Yeah, I think the main thing I'm hearing on the structure is whether it should be staff working group members or staff working group members and financial and legal representation. I think we can talk further on that. I don't know if we need to or will reach consensus on that. I think the other thing that lessens my concern is that financial and legal representation would not necessarily risk us going to a voting quorum or making it a regular meeting. So I'd appreciate some further discussion between now and the next meeting. Sarah, if you're comfortable with that, since you brought this item before the agenda, we can have that further discussion and then appoint a subcommittee prior to or at the next meeting.
That sounds good. I will set up a time for us to discuss that, Josh. Thank you.
Just, I heard the term consensus, so just wanted to make my opinion clear, and that is I think we need a structure to vote on before we begin appointing members, especially since this was on the action or on the agenda today as information, or at the very least unclear. So just wanted to note that opinion. Thank you.
Okay. I think we'll bring it back to the next meeting with a potential structure in mind. I think we can see where the staff working group falls on that, and go from there. Are there any other comments on the financial policies and procedures update? All right, we can move to public engagement and communications. Subcommittees. Darlene, I know you'd sent something around about a cost per hour subcommittee.
Yes, so
That's what I'm thinking of.
yes, that's why I was telling, yes, that's what you were thinking of. So I sent out an email after our last meeting to start a subcommittee meeting for cost per hour. So far, I only got 2 emails back about that. And I know some people mentioned that they wanted to participate. So I'm just opening that up again. And I can resend the email out to everyone so that we can start the committee. Caroline brought that up last time. So go ahead, Meg.
Hands up. So it sounds like a work group maybe, like there's probably a task to address and resolve and then move on. So like maybe a work group just, is this where we want to identify how folks are
Yes,
developing their cost per hour per the existing policy? So it's like a procedure conversation, just
we,
information sharing and,
yes,
yeah.
that was the goal because some people might determine and use different methods.
I agree.
So we wanted to get together. This was the idea that Caroline talked about, which are in the minutes, to get together, especially with some of the transit, to see how they are coming with their cost per hour. Like, what are they doing, right? Because it is a standard system already in place, but it was to have the discussion to see the how. And Caroline thought that it would help with some of the confusion with some of the cost per hour numbers if we understood how each other operated. And that's the purpose of the committee.
Yeah, I agree. I can't recall honestly, Darlene, if I replied to that or Harriet did. So okay, so it might have been that I wanted more information. I think having a meeting on that topic to discuss is a good idea. And from the Triangle's perspective, I think it would be good if Jay or myself or one of the other service planners, if Jay felt so, but Jay or myself, actually Chris Clark would be good. And then Harriet is our finance person who does this sort of work to attend. I need to talk to her about this, but I think I agree that it would be helpful for everybody to understand how others do it. And I'll just say, I think a TDA rep should be there because this becomes part of our reimbursements and part of our budget, all of which get approved by the board through the TDA. So, yeah, I agree. So I apologize if I didn't reply. I guess I was just thinking I needed more.
No problem.
Doug?
Thank you, Chair. I would just like to remind this working group, as well as any further discussion on that although there may be some standardization of how the costs are calculated, that we have very different transit providers in this jurisdiction. So even if a cost is calculated using similar metrics, it doesn't mean that one is less important or less significant to the different operators, because there are those different costs, and they are going to be different because they're different, generally different types of services. Thank you.
Thanks, Doug. It sounds like we did expect, I will say I expected at least our service providers to be involved. This does seem like a service provider conversation. If we only have 2 responses, I would like to give it a little extra time just to make sure we have interest, or all 3 have had a chance to review and consider. So if we send out 1 more round, or if we hear from all 3 service providers and ensure that everyone's had a chance to participate, I'll be happy to name that subcommittee outside of our meetings. So
One good thing I must say is that we are all directly operated in this county, which removes some of it removes a lot of complexity. When you start getting into comparing directly operated with purchased or contracted service, it gets even more.
I'd like to bring up something that, and I know this came up in the past. When we're inputting cost per hour on the project sheet, is it supposed to be based off of the service, or should it be the overall cost per hour?
It should be the cost per hour that reflects the categories in the cost per hour policy, I think is the fairest way to say that. But as you're pointing out, I don't do cost per hour calculation. The service planning team provides revenue hours to our finance team, who then follow that policy for those cost categories. And then applies it to the revenue hours that are funded by the transit plan for cost per hour calculation for plans. And then don't you all right size it at the end, Kyle, at the end of the year, if there's a significant change?
And I guess my question goes to, okay, so we're talking about for instance, let's say we're talking about a micro transit service, right? When we're writing our project sheets for micro transit project, could we be asking for reimbursement based off of the micro transit cost per hour? Or are we doing it as the overall cost
Yeah,
per
I see what
hour
you're saying.
for micro transit, fixed route, and demand
No,
response?
your modes should be split out. They'll have different costs per hour. Typically, your demand response will be much, much higher than your fixed route. And then for those project sheets and costs, you should be requesting reimbursement based on the scope of those project sheets. So if it's for your fixed route service, it should be your fixed route cost per hour. If it's your demand response, it should be your demand response cost per hour. And there may be even further divisions depending on the agency among the demand response services, whether it's microtransit or,
Okay, so my second question is that documented in a written policy?
I don't know. I'd have to go back and look at the policy, but I think, like in the NTD, they're very 2 different cost categories because they are so different. So I don't know. I don't know the answer. It's a good question to have, but I know that's kind of the standard. You do your costs differently for.
I think that sounds like a good conversation for that group.
Yeah, exactly.
Right?
Well, and OPT is in a unique situation in that you came up out of being just a demand response service. And so splitting those out has been different and more recent. So I think it's a very good conversation. I can remember when OPT's cost per hour was $8. So yeah, I think this would be a useful conversation.
all right, do we have other subcommittee conversations? Okay, hearing none, minutes for public engagement and communication. I think we had some conversation about the August and September minutes. I think, Darlene, if you had something, yeah.
Oh, yeah, what's this item referred to?
No, if I recall, you wanted to talk about something with the minutes.
Okay. I know I've been talking with you about what Orange County standards for minutes are, and what we are required to touch on in our minutes, I know I've heard the interest expressed by Meg earlier, and I think it's one I've expressed in previous meetings of reducing down to actions and allowing the video footage to kind of cover the details. But I do want to make sure we are within Orange County's policies on minutes, as this is the hosting organization. So I think that was the only thing I had specifically for minutes. I think we could key in there, but I think that doesn't require any change in our policies. Our staff working group agreement does highlight that minutes need to exist, but they don't highlight the details of what needs to be in them.
Okay.
Any other comments on minutes, Meg?
So yes, now I understand. I agree. I think minutes, the standard practice is that they capture the actions of the meeting. Quite honestly, that might not even be the standard practice. That might be like what's supported in legal cases, like that's what's required to be in there. So I think your recommendation, or whether it was a recommendation or just thought or suggestion of having our minutes reflect just the actions that were taken and having the video stand as the historic.
May I?
Yeah,
Comment?
well, sure, we have a legal person here.
Well, I did bring this question to the legal staff, the department at Go Triangle, and the public minutes of this meeting are considered a public record, and they are subject to legal action. So the representation of what is happening is subject to evidence in a legal proceeding. So therefore, it is very important that they do accurately capture what was done in meetings, which is kind of one of the reasons why they should be a little bit minimal and not editorialized, is because that could lead into potentially legal problems if there is too much editorialization, statements about other people, things like that. It does, and that is not from me, that's from the lawyers. That's what they had also found. The minutes are of public record, so they are open to anybody and anyone who wants to read them and to see them. And so it's important that they are legally, for legal reasons, they're correct, and for the protection of even just the people generating them. So I don't know if that helps with anything, but
Ultimately, there are minimum standards for what minutes may include, but it's up to the body to specify the rest. We could have a full transcription, and that could be great as long as they're accurate.
Yeah, agreed. Bodies can choose to.
Just gonna ask the same question I asked earlier. Does the body have a policy that dictates what should be in the minutes?
No.
Well, I think Josh referred us to what the Orange County standards are, and Darlene has been working with the clerk's office to look at the minutes, and she's getting feedback on just a lot of administrative things as far as making sure that we're setting things up the way that the clerk's office recommends boards and commissions are being run and organized. So there's other small things that you're seeing changes happen on. She's working on minutes, but we're also, you've seen updates to the roster, how that's put together, some other small things. Making sure we've got public comments, just the way the agenda is prepped, process, all of those things. So just trying to get those to best practices. And this is one of them. And, change takes time and we're working through it, but we're trying to get there. So getting feedback, I think, from the clerk's office is a really appropriate place to go.
Yeah, I agree. I had recommended that in my initial email on this topic, was to use standard best practices, look to the School of Government. Because we don't have a description of what minutes should be, but there are generally best practices, but then bodies do determine the extra stuff beyond that, which is legally required. But I do say that, and transcripts are an acceptable way. I think the video serves that purpose. But I do say that there are expectations, I think, in any body I've ever seen where this has been discussed, that there not be bias, that there not be opinion, there not be items added to minutes that weren't there, or like there's a lot that just isn't acceptable. But Yeah, I agree. That it needs to be balanced between what Orange County clerk like recommends or their procedures. I personally would prefer to see just the action, but I can appreciate the need to work within the agency that's housing our staff work group right now.
There is a North Carolina statute that regulates, discusses the minutes for public bodies. And much of what the North Carolina school government has drawn their conclusion from is from the North Carolina statute. But see.
Any further discussion on minutes? Hearing none. Public comments. I think this is probably,
Yes.
yeah, go for it.
Yes, this is me. So, I wanted to bring up about the public comments. I don't think we have a really good process in place. So I am working with the communications department to make sure that they assist with that. And I'm looking at, creating a Facebook page so I can also put it out as well as the website. So I'll be able to have something to send out to you guys so that y'all can have y'all communications department assist with making sure the public is aware about our amendments. So I'm open to other suggestions that you might have on how we can improve these systems. Meg.
Yeah, so Darlene and I both got here real early and we were chatting a bit about this, so. I agree that it'll be important, and Darlene seems to be working with her communications group to try to get guidance, advice on how to do some of this. It may still result in minimal public comment. We shouldn't set ourselves up for thinking it's failure if we still don't get robust comment. I think it's just the nature of the work we do in many cases. But I think partly what prompted my question on this was the whole issue around the FY26 Q2 amendment, because I wasn't seeing it out for public comment, and the item of projects themselves was embedded within the website, but there was no notice of how the public would know there was a public comment period, or how they would reply, or how they would send comment. And so that's what started my inquiry into this. So I appreciate that Darlene's looking to improve that system and then share out links, for example, with all of us to be able to share further to get that going. But is this the appropriate time? I see Doug's hand up. I was gonna ask, is this the appropriate time to start conversation around how this impacted the schedule for the FY26 Q2 amendment? And then what we're going to do about that.
I do think it's the appropriate item. I do, Doug, if you have something on the public comments in general.
I had a comment on minutes.
Okay, on minutes. Okay.
Thank you for pointing out the general statute, Kelly. The general statute does allow a public body at its option to adopt video and sound recordings as their minutes. I would propose that if this continues to be an issue, that we record the meetings and that we adopt a recording video and sound of the actual proceedings as our minutes. Thank you.
They're recorded. Yeah, I listened to them. They're recorded.
And posted on YouTube.
Yeah.
Right,
And then they-
but those are not our minutes.
No,
We
No.
can choose that recording
Yes.
to be our minute.
absolutely. I would go a step further and say we would still want a written minute that has the action items, just to make it easier for a listener to know which actions were recorded then, and then refer to the minutes for the actual proceedings.
I would be open. I think that's.
Yeah,
fair.
I think
We
that's,
just
yeah.
Have a meeting summary that's.
Yeah. Shoot them off to them. Yeah, with a video.
Thanks.
Well, no, the transcript needs to be the same.
The video, yeah, the actual video, the YouTube channel, I guess is how it's done, right? The YouTube.
Curiosity, there's no ADA issue, terms of needing some sort of transfer.
That's that's what the general statement says. It's up to each body on how it provides that access.
It's a good question. I wonder if YouTube has ADA compliance.
YouTube does have a section of it where you can actually turn on transcript and
There
it
you
will
go.
Mhm.
write us everything in being said.
All right, thanks. Meg, I know you had more on the public comments.
Oh, yeah, so this is, so just how, I guess, can we discuss the FY 26 Q2 amendment? The new schedule, how we see that working its way through the approval process, what that timeline looks like. How we need to function in the future to avoid some of us not knowing that the schedule was changed. This body's involvement in any schedule changes that had been approved prior. That whole big conversation, and then where do we go from here on those amendments in particular?
So if I could bring up a recommendation on the public comment. I think the first thing to understand is that public comment is different from public hearing, right?
Yeah.
However, to streamline it, there is a portion of public hearing that requires the information to be disseminated, right? So it has to be posted in newspapers. It has to be on the vehicles, noting the date, time of the public hearing. That same method, absent the actual public hearing, could be used in order to get the information out to the public.
Yeah.
And then when you're posting the information, the same as you would do for a public hearing, the only change is that you're not putting a public hearing date. You're putting how the public returns their public comment.
Yeah, I'll say for the FY 26 amendments, my goal would be to call a special meeting as soon as the public comment period is over. I think the challenge will be, it sounds like from my communications with Darlene and Sarah that we don't have a spot on that Board of County Commissioners agenda for November 15th, I want to say. And the Board of County Commissioners does need to look at it before Go Triangle does in accordance with the ILA. Do we know the earliest?
I was
Board of County-
talking about for this month. We will be good in November. So maybe I misunderstood you.
Okay. For the Board of
Okay.
County Commissioners meeting in November, we can bring the FY 26 amendments.
Yes.
Okay.
The 18th.
We can't do the 18th. Oh, I got corrected. We can't do the 18th.
Okay. I think that's going to be our biggest barrier then, when our next Board of County Commissioners meeting we could make is.
December 4th.
So this is now delaying it by over 2 months. Why is November not good if October was the scheduled time? For November, I'm keeping my own schedule. It was meant to go to our board in November.
We can try for the November 4th meeting, but November 18th, we cannot do.
Okay.
The
If
November 4th. Yes.
And my understanding, Paul may know more. Well, I know our Go Triangle process is it has to go to our committees, which would be like the first week of November, I think, and then it goes to our board after that. And I don't know when the deadline is for submission. I think it's probably the end of this week, maybe. And you're saying, when does the public comment period end?
21st.
Which is next Monday.
Next to
So this is tight, but I'll leave it to Paul and Stephen to figure out if they can just alert our board that it will be coming.
Shut off.
Yeah, so, yeah, TDA can talk to our clerk.
Okay. For Orange County, if we were to be on that fourth Board of County Commissioners agenda, when would we need materials prepared by?
I'm looking.
She's checking right now. Wow.
Either gonna be the 20th or the 27th.
Something like that. Yeah. I don't know exactly.
Okay. If it's the 20th, then we probably cannot hold this vote before the public comment or after the public comment period. If it's the 27th, it seems like we have a very narrow window of time that we could hold a special meeting. We do need to give at least 7 days notice, so the earliest we could call it is the 22nd. That would be very tight to get things in for that Go Triangle subcommittee. But
So can I suggest, we could consider, since we're advisory to these bodies, we could consider that this body consider it prior to the close of the public comment period, recommending approval based on no further concerning public comment. And then by the time it goes to our governing bodies, committees and boards, the report could be made if there were in fact any further concerning public comments or comments that needed addressing. So we would in essence, pre-approve based on nothing else coming up before the end of the public comment period, and then bring that outcome to the committee or board saying it was approved by the staff work group or recommended for approval by staff work group, pending no further concerning public comment, and there was no further concerning public comment. So I know that can be done, and I might recommend we try to do that here so that the schedules fit.
Well, we're not purely advisory according to the ILA. They're county board of commissioners have the duty to consider our recommendation or provide responses back as to why stated differently. But I would be in favor of that, Meg, if it's a unanimous.
I think that still makes us advisory because we don't make the ultimate decision. So we advise to them what our recommendation is.
Yeah.
It's not our decision, it's binding.
I think there are two ways to get there. The first is to call a special meeting. The earliest special meeting could be October 22nd, because we need to give 7 days notice. The other route is that the agenda section of our bylaws does allow for the addition of items to the agenda if a majority of present eligible voting members is received.
Like right now, this meeting.
And this is for the FY26.
Yeah.
Yes, for the
Yeah.
FY26 Q2 amendments, at the following discussion of the last item on the regular agenda, if a majority concurrence of present and eligible voting members is received. So it's either that or a special meeting next Wednesday or later.
I prefer not to have to try to schedule a special meeting with this group, knowing how many other meetings we all have and tangled agenda, tangled calendars. So I guess I would propose I guess I'd make a motion to add FY26 Q2 amendment approval back to this agenda and offer a vote on approval.
I think that will come after our last regular item, which would be project sponsor updates.
We'll see if I can get this.
And then for public comments going forward, did we have any comments on that?
Other than what I mentioned I said I was working with the communication department. I'm gonna start a Facebook page, and then I'll make sure I send it out to everybody so that you can get it out to your communication departments.
Yeah. I think the only thing I would add is that I would look to the TPO as a model of kind of getting engagement in a multi-government body with some complicated subject matter. I think they've done some good job of trying to solicit comment. I'd also throw out that I think a something like a Microsoft form or a survey so that folks can have a kind of clear, here's where the comment goes, rather than just emailing it or just listing someone's email.
Thank you for the compliment, Josh. We do our best.
Any other comments on public comments? Hearing none, can move to bylaws. I don't think I had anything in mind. Darlene, did you have something for bylaws?
I think you wanted to just talk about the way ahead
Yes.
on what you wanted to do with the bylaws.
That's right. I think at the previous meeting, we had talked about some particular changes just around the public comment period. I think Doug's email about if we open up the bylaws, we should fully open them up does make me hesitant to bring that forward, given that this needs to go to all the governing bodies. If we're going to make a change, let's only do it once. And I think if we're going to have a full conversation about opening up the bylaws, let's set that up for future conversation. I think there's a good amount we could talk about, but don't want to jump into that unprepared. Anything else on that item? All right, hearing none, can move to project sponsor updates. Yeah, go ahead, Nick.
Sure. So Chapel Hill has kicked off the latest rendition of the short range transit plan. That is a big priority for us to kind of revisit our 2020 approved plan. Like I said, we got that kicked off. We'll be working with our regional partners and everyone to help us with that plan as it's being developed. And really, that's outside of working with that and our ongoing BRT project. Not a lot to update on.
All right, thanks, Nick. I don't think we have Mebane representation or Hillsborough representation. Carborough, Becca?
Not a lot of updates right now. We're still working to get Morgan Creek Phase 1 let soon, and we're working on the on some of the things that we need to do to get that that let out there. And other than that, everything is just going as it's been going, going normal. But
Thanks. Triangle West?
I don't have any updates at this time.
Thank you.
TDA?
No updates, Josh.
Thanks. Orange County?
No updates for me.
And staff working group administrator.
Well, I will say I did 2 events within the last month. Electric drive event to promote the electric vehicles for Orange County. And I also did a Orange County road show to talk more about the transit and transit opportunities. That was last Sunday.
Thanks, Stephanie. Well, before we adjourn, I do know that Meg would like to make a motion to add to the agenda, so.
Well, no, I'm not going to make that motion. Thanks.
Okay. If that's the case, I'll let y'all know that while our next scheduled meeting is November 19th, expect a special meeting to be called sometime next week so that we can vote on those FY26 Q2 amendments. Any
Josh?
final items? Yep.
I did just get the deadlines for the agenda abstracts. So to get on the November 6th County Commissioners meeting, the materials are due October 20th. And to be on the November 18th meeting, the deadline is November the 3rd.
Okay. Is there a
But the
potential we could
18th meeting is not a possibility for us.
Okay. For agenda abstracts, is there any way we could have those prepared without the staff working group voting?
That would be challenging to do because we don't know what items would be on there.
Yeah. Okay. Given that, I will work with Orange County to find the first available date, and hold our vote. I think I will also be in contact with Go Triangle to see how that lines up with subcommittee schedules and their meeting schedules as well. I know we definitely want to get this Q2 amendment voted on, so we'll aim to do it as soon as possible.
But Josh, one of the things that I'm confused about is what the Q2 amendment is. So the material on the website has the list of projects, and it's the Chapel Hill Transit deal collective, or the amendment is to the name and scope change for one of their projects. I'm reading through the list right now. And the project sheet is in there, that it has to do with the NSBRT vehicles. Then there's a list of operating projects. And that would reallocate the funding to the NSBRT. Then there's the Go Triangle amendment for the Route 800. The Go Triangle amendment for the service planning staff. The name change from Orange County for the transit service software. And name change for a variety of Orange County projects to change from Nish to Sarah or Jamal. And that is it. So that is the list of Q2 amendments that we're talking about, correct?
Yes,
And those amendments have already been voted on.
for public comment. And that's the same amendments you were reading over for September minutes as well, the discussions.
Okay. I guess that, thank you for raising that. I do remember that we released the Mebane circulator for comment.
We did.
It's not on this list. It's not in the packet. I just read the list. I think. So we have to be very clear, that did not go out to public comment. And I just read the list that's in the packet. It's the Chapel Hill Transit, the Go Triangle, and then for Orange County, it's the name changes of staff and the software change.
Yeah.
We voted for everything but the owl purchase, correct?
That's correct. But given that it didn't go out for public comment, I do have some concerns voting on it if we are willing to delay the vote on the Q2 amendments because they didn't go out for public comment.
Well, if it's, we determine if it's just the public comment materials missed a project, because it is a relatively long list of them. Or if there's a larger issue with the public comment period. If it's just project, it's not, you can add an addendum to the public comment period and incorporate that and acknowledge it. Or we can defer action.
Yeah, I mean, given that we deferred action on the full package of items because they weren't listed for public comment, I would feel uncomfortable taking action on the MEB and circulator until it's been out for public comment as in our policy. So I think we can talk about that prior to the agenda for the special meeting. That will that'll be challenging, at least for me, to put on the agenda there.
The and the update, we'll have the orange plan update.
So I'm not clear what we're doing. Josh,
I
can you
don't
recap?
I don't think we're taking any action. I think Meg did highlight a good note that the items out for public comment that we could vote on the next special meeting do not include the MEB and circulator, which hasn't been out for public comment. As a result, I think we've got to figure out what items we're actually going to vote on for the FY 26 Q2 amendments, given that one of them that we released for public comment didn't actually go out for public comment.
Do we
So
want
are we
to do it to the public comment since it's still open?
I mean, I think we delayed the vote for this meeting because we wanted to give the sufficient time that we put in our schedule. I think adding it on to the public comment period at this point and giving less than a week of time to comment is a concern. I wouldn't feel comfortable voting for an item that hasn't been released for public comment.
So could we move forward with the ones that have been released for public comment and just as of today do a 21-day for the MEB and circulator?
Well, then we'd need to hold everything to go to the review process through Board of Commissioners and go triangle together for the whole Q2.
I don't know that we have to. I think that's something to discuss, Nick. We have items that went, can we move that in the Q2 and then hold the others for further conversation? Because I'm not clear on what the update was. Was the update also intended to be in the list with the circulator and not included? Or was it just the owl that shouldn't have been on the list? I don't know the answer to that question. So I think Nick proposes a reasonable action.
Yeah, I do think that is reasonable, that because it was not out for public comment, I don't think we can vote on the MEB and circulator for Q2.
So how are we going to resolve this for the MEB and circulator?
Bring it back for the next amendment cycle. And then it can go out to public comment with all the others that come in.
So you're going to send it through this group twice?
Yeah.
Because there was an error with the public comment?
I mean, I think we held off on the vote today because there is an error with the public comment.
I think that we should hold everything if we are holding one, because they were all came through at the same time. They were all submitted together in a timely fashion.
No, I think they were all submitted in a timely fashion, but if we don't have the required public comment on them, I don't know if that's in alignment with the staff working group procedures or the ILA.
I think some of these are time sensitive.
They are, including ours.
Starting up a new service is time sensitive. I don't know that that's true.
That's your opinion.
That is my opinion. That is my opinion.
Yeah.
we could certainly. I'm not aware of any reason we could not propose approval retroactive to a date for something that's submitted in Q3. I mean, this body moved that into public comment and seemed to be in agreement for that. So I don't think there's trepidation with recommending approval to the county board.
I think that's jumping the gun. I think going to public comment is very different than. I know I have many questions on it, but it was reasonable to put it out to public comment before I would vote for it to be approved. I think they're distinct.
We would have the public comment period, then we would have a recommendation, and if it moves forward in that recommendation, we could make it effective to when it would have come with the Q2.
That's a real risk that the county would take on spending funds on a project that might not get approved.
That's why we'd like it to move forward now.
I do not think a project can move forward that was not on the list of public comment. And I do feel that projects that were probably should, if we're talking about after the new year, for approval for the others.
Yeah, I'm afraid I'm in agreement about moving it forward on the agenda. So we'll look to call a special meeting on the items that have been released for public comment. All right. Any final items before concluding? Hearing none, I'll move to adjourn.
Or
Thanks, Josh.
Thanks, y'all.
Thanks, Josh.